Hi everyone. Good afternoon. This is Garima here from the iDream Career team, welcoming all of you to a webinar today in continuation to all the webinar series we have been having throughout the previous few days. First and foremost, like every time, welcoming all the eminent school teachers, principals, and counselors who have joined us today, and the school children and other students who have been associated with iDream Career. At the same time, welcoming all our trained and certified counselors who would be here, attending this webinar and having a new learning experience. To continue, for people who do not know what iDream Career is, so iDream Career is an organization that has been into career counseling services for almost 10 years now. We have been looking at providing unbiased career counseling. We do not have any affiliations or associations with respect to any institution or any university. We look at providing absolutely unbiased career guidance to all the students who are there with us. We have been working with a number of schools, a number of NGOs, a lot of corporates at the same time, somewhere around 75 plus lakh students in total with 48,000 schools. We work with UNICEF in 9 state governments to be precise, where iDream Career is the technical partner for the platform which students are accessing. At the same time, we also work with a lot of private schools. To name a few, Samhita Academy, the Sindhya School, the Sri Ram School, Navy Children's School, etc. We have been working with a lot of corporates and foundations as well. DLF Foundation, HCL Foundation, uh, Hero FinCorp, a part of their Sarthi program, the DS Group, Bharti Foundation through Airtel, etc. And at the same time, we also run our own certification and training program where we certify counselors or aspiring counselors to be career counselors and help students globally. So on that note, starting with the webinar where all of you have gathered today is about how artificial intelligence is, here and how we expect it to generate business opportunities and change the future of jobs, maybe. So today we have Mr. Sanjay Das, who has joined us all the way from London. So first and foremost, before going ahead and giving him the onus of the webinar, to introduce, Sanjay is an associate partner of IBM. He has been working as the digital transformation leader for SAP practices at IBM Europe. Plus, he has been associated with IBM for almost 16 years now, and he has extreme experience with working with the biggest clients of IBM in Europe, as well as other parts of the world in fields of digital transformation, analytics, and automation precisely. Previous to that, Sanjay has worked as a SAP consultant with Xerox and Office Depot, both in the UK. Sanjay, as I just mentioned, he's based out of London. He has done his PGDM from Sayed Business School, Oxford University, and an MBA from IAS WBM, Calcutta. Sanjay also holds a graduation degree in pharmaceutical technology from Jadavpur University. So today, Sanjay will be presenting his own personal opinion. The presentation will not be reflecting any of the views of his employer, IBM. And Sanjay, thank you so much for being here today. You've joined in from London. It is too early for you. We understand that, but I think we cannot thank you enough for having yourself here and just helping somewhere around 100 viewers that are watching us right now. So over to you, please.
Thank you, Garima. Can we move on to the slide, please? So good afternoon and good morning to those who are joining from Europe. So let me first of all say thank you to iDream Career for having me here. I'm very, very happy to be here and share my personal views in terms of the AI and how the impact would be with respect to job and how the business is being impacted or disrupted. So let's move on. If I can move on to the next slide, please. This was just a quick summary of my study career. As you can see, I have come a long way, probably gives away my age. That's fine. No hiding there. So started at Jadavpur University quite some time back and graduated in 91. And you see that very recently I was back as a student in Oxford University. So I graduated there in 2018. I have to say that it was quite a good experience to be back, to be as a student. I have to tell you that if you're studying now as a student, amazing time, enjoy it, and amazing career is ahead of you. Right, so let's start the discussion in terms of the AI, but discussion in AI cannot really start unless I talk about Arthur Samuel of IBM. Well, I haven't worked with him because he passed away long before, but really proud that I work for a company where Arthur worked. So Arthur found a game changer, as you can see in the screen, in 1959. What did he find? Well, he was a genius computer programmer, and he used to also enjoy playing a game called checkers. So what he did, because he used to have a long time spending in the computer lab, he found out a way to entertaining himself, and he thought that why not I play with the computer? So he programmed a game so that the computer can play checkers with him. And then once the program was ready, then he was playing with the computer. And guess what the result was? The result was that the machine lost. So Arthur found out that, while the machine knows the rules, what he doesn't know is the strategy. So Arthur read a book on strategy and also applied his own judgment and taught the machine some strategy, which was basically, of course, you cannot tell the machine in plain language. You would obviously, program it. So he did the programming. And he tried to play again the machine, and the result was same again, the machine lost. So Arthur realized that what's happening, that while he has given some strategy, but it was not enough. So he found a way out. So he created two user IDs within the machine. One played the other. And based on as the game progresses and the outcome comes in, the probability score of the particular position of the board and what the strategy the player will take, that would be stored in a table. And as both the teams are playing, they would be playing thousands and thousands of times. So there was a large table that was updated. And next day comes the time when Arthur plays the machine. And now machine won. And from there on, Arthur could never defeat the machine. And the machine went on to, win some of the other competitions nearby as well. And that's how started the evolution of machine getting smarter through machine learning and the algorithms. So if you can press the cue, Gary. Right. Quick one, Gary. I can't see the screen though. Is there? I'm in my PowerPoint. Is it something I'm missing out? Right. That's good. I can see it now. Thank you very much. Right. So if you can move on to the next slide, please. Well, it took several decades of plummeting storage cost, exponential increase in computer processing power, and availability of data through the sensors, which was put in over a period of time, and the social media footprints, which we all are living. The algorithms has been opening up new frontiers. Well, driverless cars, emotion detection, the tumor identification are just a few use cases we are aware. I mean, there are hundreds of more such use cases. Powered by the data and the algorithm, the new businesses cropping up while old ones are getting disrupted. And one of the term for disruption these days we use is being Ubered. If you can move on, please. Well, automation is a big lever through which operational cost for companies is coming down and new business model is emerging. So let's move on. Well, the robotics and automation in factories are very well established. As you can see, then KPMG reflecting that there are millions of robots in factories already, which are helping out human, and of course, in many cases, replacing human as well. If you move on, please. And you can see that even in China, where the economy was powered by the cheap labor at one point of time, is now going into a mode where factories are fully automated. And here is one example. Moving on, please. And it's happening in Europe as well. And we can see that in Europe, some of the production is coming back. And as you can see here, that the boot manufacturing for Clarks has come back to their production center in Street, which is an hour and a bit drive from where I live. And that's and I know that because Clarks used to be my client, in fact, very close to my heart, because they were my first client in IBM. So they have brought back the production capability of boots, backed by the robots along with the human, and they have created, as the article says, they have created 80 jobs in UK. Let's move on, please. And just not in factories, and this was an interesting one I just collated for you. So robots are not only working in factories, they are even composing music and playing them too. And I have to say that quite melodious. Here is one example. Here the robot's name is Emily Howell. You can look Emily out in YouTube or wherever other platforms for music is. You can look her up if I can call her and check it out. However, how about the automation of the traditional back office business? Working in factory is all good. Yes, they can play music as well, but many of us must be thinking, well, our students, or if I am a student, I'm not going to compete with there, so I would probably go and work in an office. So how about that sort of work? What we call it as a white collar jobs. Let's move on, please. Well, it's actually quite an amazing that the predictions are that quite a large amount of jobs are actually automatable. And in this particular analysis, McKinsey, and again, this is not yesterday's, it's a few months old, if not several months old, where they say that 60% of all occupation are potentially automatable. And if you ask me, probably it is even more. And that's a lot. And within those 60% professions, up to 30% is automatable as well. And in some cases, it can be even more. Depending upon the profession somebody is in. For example, if somebody is doing credit checks, it can be 100% automated. And let me take you some examples in a couple of slides. But when we say that it is automatable, guess what is happening now? If we can move on to the next slide, as you can see that Gartner is saying that automation is already happening. And their growth rate, they predicted that 41% up to 2020, and we are of course in 2020, while the year is not completed yet. But I have to say that they will not be wrong. In fact, we might even overshoot in the automation, and particularly because it's the time of COVID, the interest for automation is even more. Okay, so I have to say that I have personally been involved in this automation journey over the last 5 years. If you can move on, please. And this is just one example, where I presented with my client, Jacqueline here, in Orlando a few years back, where we presented a particular use case on automation. And if you can move on, please. And the use case was about one of the holy grails of the business process. It's month-end closing. in financial close, what we call it. So that involves several weeks of hard work and a lot of intelligent people that too, and across the board. And particularly this client had over 30 countries where they were present. So all put together, they had to come to a point they can close their books. And now let me take you through how the use case looked like. So I'll take you to a short video and that will explain it all. So Garima, if you can move on to the video, please. I can't hear the sound. Garima, you need to unmute yourself and play the video, please.
Automation for month-end closing. Let us now see how automation enables faster month-end closing and saves strategic resources from repetitive manual activities every month. The whole month-end process is grouped into 5 blocks: month-end pre-processing, transaction system activities, validation and adjustments, third-party system activities, and publishing and diagnostics. Block 1. First, the FinBot sends emails to the plant and sales office managers, receives email confirmations, and updates its tracker. If any individual faces issue with its pre-processing activities, as an example, when releasing billing documents for accounting, they can chat with Watson to resolve the issue. Block 2. For plants who have completed pre-processing activities, FinBot starts month-end by opening the financial period and then triggering other transactions to carry out mass processing of production orders, sales cutoff, and depreciation run. If there are issues with the job, the automation bots will identify the failure, create a ticket, then send an email to inform the stakeholders. Block 3. FinBot runs validation steps. For example, using the BW system, it finds stock which are non-moving and adjusts stock value in SAP Finance. Here, FinBot also carries out stock ledger versus balance sheet stock value comparison, informing stakeholders in case of discrepancy. Block 4. Validated data is uploaded to Hyperion for financial entities, that is, the company codes. The data gets checked again in Hyperion for consistency and accuracy. Thereafter, group finance tasks like intercompany elimination, currency conversion, and group consolidation are carried out to finalize the period and numbers for the group. Block 5. Month-end closure is ready and email confirmation is sent to John for review and publishing. FinBot also conducts self-diagnostics to identify performance and areas for improvement.
Thank you, Garima. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah, that's fine. So it's the full length of the video is available in YouTube. You can look it up, called Watson and Month-end Closing. It should show up. If not, I'll share the link with Garima and she can share with you. So this is a very simplistic process flow. And as you can see that Watson take a very important part of it. So essentially, any automation and important thing to resolve is that what happens if the system gets stuck. And Watson played a very important role here. So essentially, if the system gets stuck, the robot will ask Watson, all right, Watson, what do I do? And if Watson knows the answer, it will guide the robot. And if it doesn't know the answer, well, that's possible, then a ticket would be raised the way it is normally raised in a normal support system, and human agent will get involved and solve the ticket. However, what the extra thing here is that the Watson will learn that what the human users have done to solve that ticket, so that the same issue happens again. Watson will not come back and ask the question again. It will get the cue, have the learning, and solve the ticket again. And it's a continuous learning process. So as it gets on, it gets smarter and smarter and faster and faster. All right, let's move on, please. And as I can see that automation has to be a part of any
business transformation. And
I've been telling that for last several years, and it is even
more important in today's world. If you can move on, please.
Right. So, taking the cue from the 1959 game changer, there was a 1997. There was a IBM computer called Deep Blue, which played Gary Kasparov, those days grandmaster, and Gary lost the game, and he was very, very upset. And this was also a beginning of a time where machines will start defeating human in just not on the factory shop floor, but also in areas of gray matter where brain is involved. Now Gary comes back in 2017, and in his TED talk, actually he comes back with a different avatar where he says, "Yes, I was upset, but I am a change man now. And don't fear the machine, walk with them." That was his advice. And in his talk, he talks about an interesting example. He says that after 97, I think it was 2004 or so, there was another chess competition organized. It was an open chess competition where teams could come of their own, like a grandmaster can come and play. A supercomputer can participate, like Deep Blue of IBM, or it could be a group of people, or a group of people along with their computer. It was free for all. Interestingly, the competition was not won by the supercomputer. It was not won by the grandmaster, but it was won by a team of amateurs powered by their amateurish laptops. And the reason, what Gary explains, was that teamwork between the human team members and the computers working in unison. He says that because the man and machine work together, that was the winning strategy. So if you can move on, please. So just a slide where I want to just leave you with a thought that always think about man and machine, never man versus machine. So that would be my key takeaway of Gary's presentation, and I personally believe it so. So let's move on, please.
And now let me share with you certain points.
This was
at the back
of the project I had to do in Oxford for part of my graduation. It's a dissertation. I had to submit a paper after this, so I've just picked up some excerpts from that. So there have been both a positive and a negative view of the world based on the impact of AI and robots or robotics. So the number one example very close to my heart is the teller machines. Interestingly, teller machines came in late 60s. UK was, in fact, ahead of US with respect to getting the first teller. But let me take you the story in US, though, because I've got the stats with me. So it was thought that after tellers were introduced in US in 1969, that lots of jobs would be lost. All the tellers would be gone, the human job would be at risk. But interestingly, what happened, because the tellers came in, the automated tellers came in, the cost of operation went down for a particular branch. And that enabled the banks to open new branches. And as a result, net increase of jobs of tellers were created. Of course, the tellers were just not dispensing cash anymore. They were talking to the customers, they were doing selling, they were solving problems. But overall, the jobs that was in 1972 versus late 2000, it was literally doubled. So that's the power of automation in terms of creating jobs, you see. And the jobs has been created all along, even after the last recession in 2008 in US, several million jobs were created. Of course, I know that you have been reading in newspaper that in last month or so, over last month, it has been a significantly other way around. However, that's for a different reason, nothing to do with the robot. In fact, it's totally the opposite side. The other interesting point on the positive side of is O-ring principle. The O-ring principle talks about, it came out of a incident. It's a very sad incident, Challenger incident, 1986, where the multi-billion-dollar Challenger craft got destroyed after probably a couple of minutes into the air. And the reason they found later was an O-ring, is basically a washer, which was costing only a few cents. So the point came out as a management science that as you automate, as you make your rest of the process robust, suddenly the O-ring type things becomes very important. What it means in the world of automation is that as you automate all your process, as the robots run it, as the errors will be eliminated, suddenly the importance of human would be even more. And in our example, as I was talking about the teller, the human teller suddenly became more important because they were ultimately the human face to the customers, providing the empathy, the relationship, and all that. And another important part of in this particular slide talks about human greed, so to speak, in a positive way. That we today buy things which was not affordable or was not even available 100 years back. We buy those computers, we buy those sports cars, and all the other items, all the gadgets, all the iPhones, which was not even there. Well, probably iPhone was not even there 20 years back. So point is that sometimes necessity is not the mother of invention. Rather, innovation is sometimes the mother of necessity. We create new products, and that's why we buy. And the authors and the experts say that human innovation will come, and we will buy more products, and economy will grow, and more jobs will be created. So that's the view. If you can move on, please. And there are other positive views of that as well. That as you can see here, talks about that overall in the history, technology has never removed jobs. Overall, the total jobs have gone up, as some of the points I discussed in my last slide. And they argue that the human touch cannot be replaced. There are some jobs the human has to do it. And the other argument, which was quite interesting, was that, yes, I mean, in 100 years' time, maybe I can do many stuff, but in the short term, in 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, it cannot become that intelligent that all the jobs would be gone. So there are significantly large amount of jobs which human has to still do. If you can move on, please. Well, there is a bleak view of the world as well, and there's quite a few authors who say that actually the AI robots are already taking away lots of jobs, and probably many of us know that, right? I mean, lot of the professions. For example, if we go back several decades, and when I used to go to Dalhousie Square to visit my father in his office, there was a huge type pool. Now, if you go to any office today, those typists or the type pools are totally gone, and there are several other professions are gone as well. And what these proponents argue that, while a lot of jobs are going, the corporate profits are going up, and the problem is that there's nothing wrong in corporate profits, but they're saying that the equivalent increase in human salary rise is not happening. And as a result, they argue that there would be significant disparity of income, which already exists today. So that's the bleak view of the world. So let's move on and talk about what the reality is. Well, I would say that probably the reality is probably in between. While it is not superly positive, as some of the authors say, and it is not superly negative as well, but it's somewhat in between, and it's probably up to us what we make of it. So what can we do, or what can we recommend to our students, or if you are a student, what can you think about in terms of as a future career? Well, first of all, well, if you cannot beat them, join them, we call it. So, well, you can join the world of AI development. You can be coding the AI part of it. You can be part of the support system, and believe me, there would be a huge amount of jobs out there. However, not everybody would like to do the programming. Not everybody might find a job in programming or even AI development. So what can we do? I would say that there's a huge amount of job on the other side as well. So if you can augment the AI and cover those items which the AI cannot do, I think you would do very well. So what I would recommend, focus on your soft skills. So one or two topics I will talk about here in this particular slide. I would say that focus on communication, and in that communication, storytelling would be key. Now, a lot of experts like Yuval Noah Harari has written in his books like Sapiens and all that, that believing in story got human collaborating way better than what we would have otherwise done. Believing in a common story, be it be a story like a country, or it's a religion, we believed in something, right? And based on that, we got together, and hence from a hunter-gatherer, we have come to a modern world where we are talking to each other through a video conferencing. And mind you, there has not been much of genetic change between the hunter-gatherer and people like you and me today. Well, the other interesting thing to focus on is empathy. And just a story out here as well, because, you know, as I'm telling you to tell stories, let me tell you a story as well. So there was a study on medical students, between students who are more empathetic and people who are slightly less empathetic. I would say a bit more focused on their own selves. They will not share their notes. They will just focus on their own studies. They will not help anybody. Believe me, I passed my exams because of the empathetic students, because I have quite a few students who shared their notes, and that's how I passed. So I really would recommend that a lot of empathetic students should be there. However, the study showed that first 1 or 2 years in the medical college, the people who are less empathetic, they did better in their exams. However, year 3 onwards, it was found that the empathetic students started to do better. They were happier, of course, and they did very well in their studies as well. And after they passed their exams, and when they went to the residency and they do their profession in anger, they were way better in their success marks. So empathy as a skill would be very important. If you can move on, please, Garima. Right, so innovation would be something I would recommend you to focus on. Well, innovation and creativity drives value for society as well as profits for the corporates. Nothing wrong in that. So any contribution we can do to that innovation journey will add value to us as well. And that innovation, the opportunity to innovate is even more now if you work with the AI. And I have done several examples where partly you augment AI with some of the human elements, and within AI also you can have several other ideas, and it's just not improving your existing processes, as we call it as exploit. You can also explore, which is about finding out new business model, new business ideas. Another area which is slightly unrelated, but very related in a way, is look after your health. And when I say health, I mean your mind and body. Look, ultimately we are in the profession, we are working, we are having our entertainment, ultimately to be happy. And unless you have a good mind and body, it's very difficult to be happy, believe me. And equally, it will help in profession as well. And also a student, there are several studies which shows that a good sleep and exercise makes one learn faster, and exams as well. The exam scores are higher as well. Several studies were showed that just by increasing 1 hour extra, sleep, meaning starting the school 1 hour later, the stat score went up. So that's the importance. So focus on your mind and body. And the other topic is focus on general understanding initially rather than early specialization. Again, several studies have proven that.
The reason being that you may not like a subject you have chosen to start with in the medium term. In the short term, you can specialize and probably start a job with higher salary, but very soon you may start disliking it. And this is very, very important in today's world, because suddenly a particular subject or a skill what you had as a specialty may not be relevant after a few years, and hence you need to keep your options open. And believe me, you got to, and that includes me as well, we got to rediscover ourselves several times in our career. Well, I can give an example. It has happened to me, and for sure in the next generation it will happen to pretty much 100% of the people. They will have to rediscover their career, they have to learn skills, and hence ability to learn new skills and reinvent is going to be a key differentiator. Next slide, please. So here I just listed a few suggestions from Harari. As you can imagine, I really look up to the guy. Harari is one of the thought leaders in today's world. I definitely recommend read his books. But I just picked up 3 of his top suggestions here. As you can see, I just color coded it. He's talked about know yourself, get to know yourself. You understand what you want, what your strengths are. He also talks about spiritual approach. It's very, very important for your career and happiness. And interestingly, one of the all-time gurus of management science as well as politics also talks about it. Yes, I'm talking about none other than Chanakya of India. He also talks about spirituality as a way of success in career, in politics and management. I will finally come to an end with my presentation with the thought, which is point number 10 in Harari's ways. Find your mission. Find what excites you. Find a purpose. And I think that will bring the success in your life. With that, I will come to an end, and I will open for any questions, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, I mean, this is just a slide as a placeholder for questions, feedback, discussion. So open to any questions the audience might have, or anybody in this group might have.
All right, for all the participants who are there in the webinar, if you could see, there is a chat box in YouTube, requesting everybody to please put in their questions on the chat box, and our team is moderating the chat box for you. We will get your questions through to be answered by Mr. Sanjay. So Sanjay, to start with, I do have a few questions already sent in by a few people. So number one is wherein, you had been mentioning about your particular own experience and, how perhaps AI has been used at IBM. So if you could throw some light on basically what Watson is, and something in detail about it.
Well, for the detail, I have to say, how many weeks do you have? But let's try to keep it short. So Watson is our AI solution. I mean, of course, a lot of other companies do have it as well, but Watson is one of the earliest ones. And as a company, as I said, our journey started in 1950s. Of course, it took us some time before it really picked up, because a very, very important thing was to have the processing power, the data, and the cost of computing and the power of computing really helped us in terms of coming out with the AI part of it. And for the Watson is also supported by a lot of our research scientists who work day in, day out, and not only, and they are really, of course, amazingly intelligent guys. They publish hundreds of papers every year to augment the Watson. Now, that's okay, that's technology, it's an AI technology. So, but ultimately the value of an AI is ultimately what value it is adding to the world, the society, and we as individuals.
So as you could see that the use case, the video which we played, Watson played an integral part. And that was, of course, in business, but we are also augmenting Watson for things like in the medical care, which has become very, very important, in the areas of COVID, where, you want to fast track any sort of discovery and all. And I believe you may have seen a recent declaration by our company that we are opening up a lot of our, research projects, as well as access to the computing power what we have, so that it helps in terms of the fight against COVID. But that's just one example. We are helping out just not healthcare, just not business, but anything anybody would like to do. For example, a startup can start using accessing some of our APIs from our cloud applications very, very easily, and they can stitch it together and create amazing applications, and which ultimately will help their business. And and when you do a new business, ultimately it helps to create jobs. It will help to solve a problem of humankind. So Watson is, I would say, is becoming, and it's already become, the integral part of the way we do our business, and also way we lead our life. Only thing, not always it is visible.
All right, thanks. I think that kind of puts the detail into some words, definitely.
Thank you.
All right, so next question is by Mr. Shivam. So he says that to what extent can we depend on AI in fields like defense and medical services, and especially addition to these fields, those which require a high level of decision making capability?
Well, I have to say it is evolving. So let's start with medical. I think in the medical areas, there are examples where, and one of the slides was a tumor photo, and there, the system could identify tumor cells much better than the human, because that's how it started learning. But then it started getting much better in finding more predictors, which the human mind would have done it, but it took several years. But because of the high computational power, it could do it. But again, for medical science, it's not one versus the other. It is one augmenting the other. So some of the tasks AI does way better, and some of the tasks still, there is a big element of the human touch, the empathy, and using that experience where still the doctor and the machine needs to work together. In areas of defense, well, it's difficult to really say, but I'm aware of some of the, technologies like Iron Dome and all, which is anti-missile defense systems, where AI does pretty well. To what extent it is successful, well, I personally don't have the data, but I can suspect it's an increasing area where computers or the AI are part of defense system, whether it is a jet or it is a missile system. I think it is used, but I personally can't comment how accurate it is.
Okay, all right. So next question coming in from our team itself. John, he basically asks that, how do you see students from the humanities or the arts background contributing to the development of AI? And, in continuation of this as well, how do you see AI also in the teaching and the education space?
Oh, great question. So first of all, I would say that the humanities is a subject, is a great to be in. And, you talked about the general area. So whether you are part of AI or not, if you're humanities and you are, looking at broader aspect, how you connect with people and all, great time to be in, because that's something you can really augment the AI. The other part where the humanities can help, they can give the human element into the AI, or things like, let's say, there are aspects like AI is trying to choose, okay, who would be the best suited when you're hiring somebody. They're taking markers, but that has to have a human element to it. There has to be certain empathy part of it as well, and there's something which is just not written in the law. I think that's what the humanity student can give, that sort of a value add to the AI itself. While they might not be coding, but they can give that personality, that sort of augmentation, so to speak, to the AI by way of giving that the human elements to it. And what was the second question, please? Teaching?
Yes.
All right. So I would say that again, in the way I talked about in the medical area, that some of the things AI can do way better, but still you cannot take away the importance of doctor, the human touch of it. But I think equally in that's applicable to the teaching as well. Let's take an example. The amount of information which is available in the internet without AI even. You go to the YouTube, there's so many things. Well, I learned myself from the YouTube as well. And well, it's not right that the AI is not there, because the moment you start learning a topic in YouTube, the AI at the back of it knows what sort of topics you like, and it will find good lectures which are linked to it. AI is working at the back of it, so it helps. And that's what is helpful, particularly for students who are remotely there, or they don't have access to the great teachers. They might be, their equivalent students in the cities might be getting. And that's where, AI can have a significant role in terms of, curating good material to them. However, there's nothing which replaces a teacher as a mentor, as a coach, as a guide, or that sort of a parenting type of thing which the teachers can provide. So with the AI and the human teachers together, I think we have great futures, and particularly in India, I think we can really do wonders out there.
Okay. Coming to the next question, so we have Mr. Kaushik. He's asking which companies are the most powerful in AI in India?
Well, Kaushik, specific Indian companies, for me, it's difficult to say. I mean, of course, we can Google and find out, but I have to say that our company has a huge presence in India as well. So, and quite a bit of our development happens from India as well. So we are good. And I suppose the other companies like the Googles and others, they are also present in India as well. So they are pretty good. If the question is about which Indian AI companies are doing well, personally, I don't know. But by all means, if you reach out to me, I can. And also, if you have got names to bounce it on me, I can give some feedback by checking with my network. But specific company names in India, other than the usual suspects like IBM and Google, I will not be able to tell you.
Okay. Next question from, again, Kaushik itself. He asked that what is the difference between machine learning and artificial intelligence?
Well, there are two terms, and they work in unison. I mean, AI is probably a much broader term, and it uses several ways of learning. So broadly, what we really mean by AI, that outside human brain, we create a machine or a technology which is intelligent. And of course, there are several definitions of that. Some say that, can it pass the Alan Turing test, which is basically, it will, there will be some question asked to the machine, can it pass as a human? And they say that it's a holy grail of passing as an AI. So that's one part of it. But machine learning is a way the AI can learn, but there could be other ways as well. Machine learning is, for example, the way Arthur Samuel played the computer. It was learning as more and more games were being played, the data was being generated, and it was learning. But that probably was not creating something what we will call it an AI. It wouldn't have passed the Alan Turing test. So I don't know whether it explains or not, but AI is a tool by which the machine learns, but AI is probably one step up. I mean, you can say that in path of evolution, we can expect an animal to survive. It can swim, it can bark, but probably it will not be able to write a code or write a story, which probably humans can do. So that's the difference between machine learning and AI, I would say. But not exactly, but I hope it explains that what the difference. I have to say that AI is way, way ahead. It sort of compares against sort of human creativity or intelligence. That's the aim. Are we there yet? Probably not. Can we be there yet? Probably yes. But I have to say that there's a lot of interesting times ahead.
Okay, so in continuation of what you just mentioned, Sanjay, so we have 2-3 users asking the same question. So perhaps if you could answer it in detail. So Samarth specifically, so he has been asking that is it right to actually compare AI to human thinking, or perhaps would you suggest it to categorize as something different? And how you think we can mitigate the impact of humans losing their jobs after AI or automated machines are in picture?
Well, is it right to compare AI with human thinking? Well, there's no right or wrong. It depends what thinking we are talking about. I mean, if you talk, I mean, I have to tell you that this is the debate I have with my wife all the time, and sometimes in a very, very heated, particularly in dinner tables and all. So one topic which comes out is, can AI actually be creative enough to create a composition, or play a raga in a way. If Ravi Shankarji is playing, every playing he does, it's at that moment, and it's very creative, and it's just not going by the grammar, but also the creativity at that point of time. And one school of thought would say, well, Ravi Shankarji, you cannot just compare it with anything. And other thought will say, well, AI can sort of learn out of Ravi Shankarji's playing, or Vilayatji's playing, and then come out with something which is, have the best of both worlds. As I said already, that AIs are doing a lot of creative stuff, and many of these conversations which we are having with in many of our customer service calls or even chats, we don't even know who we are chatting with, and many of them are passing the Alan Turing test. So that apart, I would say the real question here is not about competition, it's about working together. I think AIs are at the moment extremely good at certain things. For example, if it is about some knowledge, if you are a doctor, what happened 50 years back, a particular case, whether you are a doctor or a lawyer, AI will do extremely well. You cannot just beat them. But if you are trying to think about some creativity, joining the dots, or bringing together a group of people with a common objective, probably still human are way ahead. And that's why I was mentioning focus on the soft skills, where still the human power is way, way ahead. And we can really augment the AI, and either for our society, for the companies we work for, or even for individuals to make our life easier, or doing a startup. That's the right question to ask, that what can I do with the available technologies to come out with new ideas, new business ideas, or explores and exploits, as we talked about. I think that's the right question to ask.
Okay, so but in continuation to this, Sanjay, Amol, who's also a viewer with us, he says, do you think there will be any situation where AI becomes smarter for us to control?
Well, theoretically, there are yes, potentially it can be, and one school of thoughts, and there are a lot of movies has been there on that as well, where the robots take over, the Terminator story, and one of the blockbusters. That's what it talks about. But I suppose it's like anything, right? I mean, it's a question of defense as well, right? The fire helps us cook, but the same fire, if you're not careful, will burn us out. The defense, which is we are spending a lot. There was a question on defense, and the same products, if they are used, inappropriately, it can destroy humankind, right? So it's a powerful thing. We have to be careful how we use it, and hence, there are a lot of work needs to be done by involving, like the humanity students and all that. How do we make sure that AI is used in the right way, with the that sort of a human parts of it involved, so that it doesn't go not only against human, or also doesn't go against the environment, doesn't go against other parts of the earth, but equally AI can be leveraged and augmented to work with us to improve the environment, improve the pollution, improve the health, and all that. With all the benefits what we have, well, of course, like everything else, it has got a side effect if you're not careful. But I think it's worth the risk. And whether we take the risk or not, well, is happening anyway. I don't think we can make any changes to that. So the question to us as individuals, as the teachers and students, would be that how can we shape the world where AI would have a very, very important role to play.
Okay. So next question, Sanjay, is more from a career perspective. So people would want to know, how do you build a career in AI? Is there any specific graduation or post-graduation that needs to be done? Would an MBA suffice? Is India better, or maybe doing an overseas abroad education is better? How do you suggest?
It depends. I mean, AI can have a wide variety of careers. It can be coding. It can be the supports of the AI-led systems. It can be also the innovations, what you bring about leveraging AI. So there's a lot of it. But I would say that every company, whatever their business is, be it be manufacturing, be it be service, be it be financial services, be it be anything else, AI would be an integral part. And the career in AI, I suppose you might be part of an AI company, but equally, if you work for any other companies, I think you have to work with AI. So, of course, if you are coding, your computer degree would be helpful, but any other degree, whether not necessarily only engineering, but any subject which helps you to code, or think logically, will be helpful. But I would say that even if you are doing humanities, that doesn't stop you from, getting up to it. It's your interest. So, and many of these things can be learned, because there are materials available in the internet. You can learn it. In terms of starting a career in India and abroad, I think India is in a good place as well. There are several companies. The growth rate is phenomenal. So I will not say that if you are in India, you are not getting the opportunity. On the other hand, you might get more opportunities. But of course, depending upon what you want to pursue, and if you can take the plunge at it, you can go abroad as well. But point is that the world is now way flatter, and you can move from one place to another place. Studying in India, you can also work abroad. I have done it. So there is nothing which stops you, and it's a great time to be in India, to be honest. And I really, in a way, say that you guys are very lucky to be in India at this point of time. I don't know whether it answers the question or not, but the various streams to join the AI world. Of course, technology is one of it. MBA is one of it. Humanities also is another part of it. So You can be directly involved with AI development, or you can be part of the augmentation team, which will include AI into some of the different innovations and use cases which will come out of it. And I think that's where the value is, how you can bring together the AI as well as the human team work together to come out with some great ideas, bring the magic.
Okay, okay. I think it kind of does answer the question. So moving on to the second last one specifically, very interesting. Shriram asks that what are the essentials of setting up an AI lab in a K-12 school?
Actually, yes, I mean, AI lab, I would say that, these days to start an AI lab, depending upon what you're trying to achieve, as a start, I would say that you can start from home and one person can do it. I will tell you why. Because there are significant amount of APIs or the AI apps available across. If you come to the Watson or in the world of Bluemix of IBM, there are several apps you can already use. For example, very close to my heart was how do you do tone analysis, or how do you do facial emotion analysis, right? So now I can obviously start and code it and have a huge team to develop it, or I can use it from the APIs already available. So I can create an application which might figure out that what the real mood of the customer based on the telephone conversation which is going on, the tone analysis, or you can have any other visual analytics which might say, okay, quickly, in terms of tumor, you don't have to develop it from the scratch. So you can start with using those APIs, and not just from IBM, there are other companies as well. They provide their APIs, and you can bring it together and come out with the use cases. And as you get along, you might have your own ideas to develop a specific application. Then you can develop that particular app might be used by other developers or other companies, and you can also sell it through the cloud approach, so that instead of somebody investing millions to buy it, they can pay per usage. So that might be a good way of starting, and you can start very, very small using the existing APIs, and collaborating with the larger companies as well as the individuals and smaller companies. So a huge amount of opportunities are there, to have a startup. And I will say that, of course, employment is good. Corporate worlds are excellent to do your career, but don't just neglect the opportunities of startups as well, because this is a good time to do startups, because lots are happening, lots of disruptions are happening, and more disruptions are happening, more changes happen. That's a great opportunity to do something of your own as well.
Okay. So one last question, Sanjay, from Dipankar, who heads the content team from iDream Career. So he would want to know, what do you think of when do humanoids and humans will be augmented by implanted AI chips?
Well, good question. The honest answer is I don't know, but I will tell you some examples. Okay, for example, I use my Fitbit, which is constantly measuring my heart rate, my activity, and all, and it's giving me very, very good feedback. And it's driven by an AI which also monitors my sleep. So even though it is not really implanted within me, but a lot of these trackers are actually monitoring us, and that's another area. Of course, social media and all has got us into it. We are always a lot of data points we are generating, but definitely these sort of trackers are also generating a lot of data and a lot of insight of human beings. The next step definitely would be the chips which will go in, and some people are already thinking about it, how those chips will not only monitor us and give us a better health by identifying the risks and all that in advance, For example, would you not like to know the risk of somebody developing Alzheimer's 20 years back, or even cancer 30 years back, and take some actions? And these chips potentially can do that. So the other aspects of it is that these chips can also provide identity. For example, instead of the fingerprint or the retina, these chips can do it. But of course, in those areas, there is other risk as well. What happens if somebody hacks into your those implants and all? So there's a lot of considerations onto that. So I suppose a lot of these technologies do exist now, and it can be surprisingly quick when we can implement many of them, backed by other technologies like nanotechnology, which can improve the health significantly. But I think there are other considerations of the legality part of it, the security part of it, which might let us go a bit slow into it. But I have to say that it may not be that far away. But that's my belief. Only time will say that whether the belief was anything to do with reality or not. But thank you for the question, though, Dipankar.
Great. Fine. So I think that brings us to the end of the questions as of now, Sanjay. So I would, request our team member, Mr. Thomas John, who's right now moderating the chat for us, to maybe share your email ID, or shares ours as well. So if any of the questions come through any of our audiences, we will be definitely shooting them to you. Maybe you could answer them back on email, and we will put them across.
Happy to help, and thanks again for having me here. This is my way of trying to do my bit for the upcoming students and teachers to share my views. I hope it was enjoyable to you as much as I have done. So yes, look forward to future engagements and future questions.
Great. Thanks. So for everybody who's watching us right now on YouTube, just do make sure to tune into the next webinars that we have lined up, specifically the one on this Monday. We have Mr. Prasad Bidappa, who's basically a fashion industry stylist. He's the big name behind stylist of Deepika Padukone, Anushka Sharma, and Lara Datta. So definitely all of you should be looking forward to attending this session at 5 o'clock on this Monday. Also, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel of the Career Class, where you will have information about all such celebrities and big hotshot people taking the webinars for you every Monday at 5 p.m. So on that note, Sanjay, once again, thank you so much to you. First and foremost, waking up so early at London, and then spending your 60-90 minutes with us and giving us some great insights about AI.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.